Hey guys, welcome back. We are at the next video for my 5 Leagues in the Borderlands campaign. In video 1, we created our warband. I have transferred all of my working information, all of my roles and my results and everything else, and I've transferred it onto the roster sheet. So that's kind of done now. However, things like region and current location are not done yet, because the next step is for me to actually create the area of the world where I will be adventuring, where I will be doing quests and smiting evil and saving the people. Well, that's the plan. I could die badly in the first mission and game could be over, but you never know. So yeah, I have named my warband the Thorns of Bystone. I did random names for my warband guys, so the leader is basically, my avatar is Abel Bystone. He's also the mystic. I have found figures for these amongst my collection. Didn't have many halflings. I think I only had 2 or 3 halflings, and I actually found one that's suitable, painted well enough to go on camera. But that's the only one. All the other figures aren't painted yet, so I need to get them done quickly. They are undercoated, they are washed, but I need to actually put paint on them. But the halfling is done. I just need to get the other 5 done as well. Also I think probably the next video, I'll be looking at my first campaign turn in terms of the preparation and seeing who is going to be my first opponent, my first enemy, so I can also look for those figures and get them done as well. But in the meantime, the warband is done. What is next? Well, next we have to, as you can probably tell by the title for this video, we have to look at the region and the threats. So we're moving on to part 2 of the book, the campaign itself. So we have to create the area of the land where we are going to be adventuring and also the threats. Now, in this game, it's a very clever use of RPG, in terms of the RPG elements in this game. There's not a lot of scope for actual role-playing, where you role-play the characters per se, but there is a lot of detail in terms of what you do, in terms of your interactions with villagers, with enemies, with travelers. But there's also the use of the campaign map to show where things are in your little part of the world. And that's, again, what we're going to be doing today. In terms of the threats, in the book, there are a number of different enemy types or groups, enemy groups, that you could confront, and you have to pick 3 to be actual threats to this region of the land. We have what we call, I think, foes within and foes without. And there are given 4 groups for each of those, and you have to pick 3. 2 foes within, enemies that are actually in your region causing problems, and 1 foe without, an external threat. And we'll actually have to select those 3 from the, I think it's 8 different types. Now, I was reading the book and looking at that and thinking, oh great, I only need to kind of paint 3 groups of enemies or 3 types of creatures that I could be fighting against. Maybe undead, goblins, or maybe sort of a human faction. But then I read, I think it's the quests. In quests, you can actually come up against all the other types. So it could well be that you're going to need all 8 different types of models. We'll see how we go. Like I say, I may not even survive the first bloody mission. But we'll see how it goes. Now, we are going to begin by looking at the region, the area of the land where we are based for this campaign. To win the campaign, you basically have to try and destroy those 3 threats. But you know, it's a solo game. You can end whenever you want. But really, the kind of proper way to end the campaign is to get all three of those threats defeated and out of it. Now, in terms of the game, do you need a map, a physical map of the region? You can do it without the map, but it is much easier, much more thematic, much more fun to actually have a map. Now, you don't need to have a expensive software like Campaign Cartographer. Campaign Cartographer is a wonderful software. It's absolutely amazing what you can do with it, but it is very expensive. And I mean, I used to play around with the first version, and to get good results, you need to have a little bit of artistic flair, to be very honest. If you're not an artist, the results that you can get aren't as good as obviously what an artist can do, or somebody with an artistic flair they can actually produce. But you don't need to have something expensive like Campaign Cartographer, a very expensive software. No. You can just scribble down on a piece of paper, whether it's a piece of square grid or hex grid, or even just a piece of A4 like this. You can actually draw out a very basic, very simple map if you want to. However, I would recommend going online, because there are a number of websites where you can create maps very easily. There are 3 that I know of and have used before, and I will be using for this for my campaign. The first one is a website or a software called Incarnate. Now, there are 2 versions of this. There is a free version which has very limited functions and what do they call them? Icons and things that you can actually use to make your maps. It's worth trying the free version, to see whether it's what you want. And then if you have the money, you can pay for the full version. And the full version is amazing. But again, you do need to have a little bit of artistic talent to kind of really make the most of Incarnate. But the maps can be amazing. A second option that I would recommend is a place or a website called Asgard's Fantasy Map Generator. Now, I used this when I created the world that my crew are currently on in 5 parsecs from home, a planet called Maud 6. I used Asgard's website to actually create that map and the provinces and the towns and the regions. It's fully free. It is an absolutely amazing piece of software. You don't have to download it. You can actually run it from the website, from the browser. It's really, really good. However, it is very deep. You can really go into a lot of details. I think it's mainly focused for RPG players who want to play around with the politics of the region. But you can modify all things like the flora and fauna, the temperature zones, even things like the birth rate, the cultures, the language. All these things you can actually play around with, and you can actually watch the world develop over time based on those variables that you put in, such as population growth, flora and fauna, politics. You can actually see how regions can grow or diminish or get conquered and taken over. And this Asgard can do all of that. It's absolutely amazing for RPGs and for tabletop gaming, but it may be a little bit too big or deep for what we need here. Which brings me to my third suggestion, which is the one that I'm going to be using, although I'm going to modify and personalize. And that is a thing called Perilous Shores, and it's to be found on the Waterbau. I'll put the link up here, waterbau.itch.io. Now, this is a map generator that needs absolutely no artistic ability from you. I mean, Asgard's doesn't really need any artistic ability unless you want to modify the maps. It generates a full map for you. I think Incarnate, you have to create it yourself. But Perilous Shores actually can create region maps, which is again perfect for this. We don't need maps of the whole world for 5 Leagues from the Borderland. So it can create these regional maps for you. You just click, select generate map or new map, and it will generate a new map for you. So this is just a random one that I did when I opened the website. It's the one that first came up. Comes up with a random name of the region. It comes up with, I don't know whether you can see this very well, it's a bit mixed in with the background, but it has a legend of certain areas of interest. So you've got like point 8 here is High Bend Town. So this is a settlement here. This one with the skull, this is location 1. Fort of Doom. These are all, it's all done randomly, as well as the map in terms of the, what's the word, topography, the landscape and everything, the coastlines, that's all randomly done, but also these sort of locations of interest are also done randomly with random names. And it's done for you. You click the button, you select new map, it gives you a completely new map. Now, for me, I'm going to use this as a basis for my region. I'm going to roll up, one of the first things we have to do when we're creating a new region is to find out how many settlements we have and the different types of settlements and what they are. Now, on these maps, you may not have enough settlements, or you may have too many settlements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a map from Perilous Shores, and I'm going to customize on PowerPoint. PowerPoint's an easier software to use. So I'm going to take the map, put it into PowerPoint, and next to it I can put a little box where I can actually write notes. So I may not need to have the legend on here. I can just write down the notes here. And what I'm actually planning to do is to actually get rid of all these points. Useful as they are, and they're brilliant for things like RPGs or other games where you need all that information. With 5 Leagues, you're going to have a random number of settlements and locations of interest. So this may not be exactly what you need or what's required. So what I'm going to do is take the map, but get rid of all the little bits, all the little details. That way I can now populate this map with everything that I roll up. The number of settlements I can then put on this map and link them. Again, I can do similar to what's here. Put numbers next to each point of interest. I can do that, it's not a problem. And then I can put them wherever I want based on what I roll up, and I can put here the name, I can put what's there, some details, for example, if it's a delve or a dungeon, I can put here that it's a dungeon. If I find a monster lair, again, I can link it on here, I can put a little icon on here, link the number to here, and actually put down what monster's in there. So this is what I'm planning to do. I'm going to use Perilous Shores as the basis, but I'm going to modify to suit my particular campaign. Now, whether I'm going to use this map, I don't know yet. I'm going to have to see what I roll up. But those are some recommendations for you. If you can afford it, and if you have a lot of artistic talent and a lot of time, Campaign Cartographer is absolutely amazing. Incarnate is also a really good investment. If you want to go for the pro version, the paid version, it really is amazing. The free version is decent, but it is fairly limited. But you can get some really amazing maps from Incarnate. Asgard, again, brilliant software, brilliant website, but maybe is a bit too big for what we need here. And Perilous Shores, well, that's the one I'm going to be using. And Perilous Shores, there's a lot of customization you can have with hex grid or without the grid. You can have different styles, like an ancient style, a cartoon style, a soft style. There's a lot of things you can do with it anyway, but that's the one that I'm going to be using. Right, now that's out of the way, let us actually create our region. Now, the first thing we need to do, well, it says pick a suitable name. To be honest, I'm going to see what Perilous Shores gives me. Or maybe go to a random generator online and roll up a random name. I'm not very good at naming things. We have to establish settlements. So yeah, this is one of the things we need to do first, is to find out how many settlements are in the area and what type they are. So how many hamlets, which are the smallest, how many villages, and how many towns. And the size does make a difference in this case, because there are certain things that you can do in a town that you can't do in a hamlet because it's too small. So let's have a look and see. So first of all, we have to roll percentage on here to determine how many we have. And then for each settlement, we have to roll to find out what type they are, but there are modifiers. On this table, it's a -10 for a hamlet and +10 for a town. Obviously, towns are less likely to be scattered farming communities. Yeah. And each of these type of settlements will have a different kind of effect, or I think ability is the wrong word, but they'll have different effects on your campaign. So let's go. Let's find out how many settlements we have. So I'm rolling percentage. Now I'm going to be doing blue first every time. So we're rolling percentage and we get 21. Well, that's easy to remember. We've got one of each. So we have 3 settlements. We have 1 hamlet, 1 village, and 1 town. Right, now we need to find out exactly what kind of settlements they are. So let's start with the hamlet. So the hamlet, we get a -10 on the roll. So we're going to roll. Oh, throw me dice away. Come back, you bastard. All right, we're going to be rolling. We get a -10 to the roll. So a 26 becomes a 16. It is a military outpost. Okay. So it's a small little settlement, but they do have a military presence. There are too few troops here to mount any concerted action, but living behind a sturdy palisade does feel reassuring. Add +1 to the roll when choosing the recruit campaign activity. Okay, so we get +1 to recruit rolls. Okay, could be very useful. For the village, there's no modifier, so we just roll. We get 87, a trading hub. So that's the village. What does that do? The town is built, or village in this case, is built along an important road or river, making it a natural pause for merchants. You may pay 1 gold mark to receive 1 additional rare goods roll once per campaign turn. Rare goods is something that you can look for during the preparation stage, the pre-battle stage. So it comes under town. Okay, so if you're in a village, you can roll once on the rare goods. If you're in a town, you can roll twice. But I can pay an extra gold to roll another type, so I could roll twice. Okay, I mean that could be useful. So 1 gold for +1 rare goods roll. Okay. What about the town? Again, things like names I'll come up with later. So the town, I'm getting a +10. We get a 48, becomes a 58. It is a market town. Okay. So what is a market town? An established community of common folk trying to live a peaceful existence in a world that is anything but. Okay, the first time you visit here during the campaign, add +1 adventure point. Ooh, that could be bloody useful. Okay, first visit, +1 adventure point. Okay. Now again, if you remember what I said last time, for things like adventure points, where is it? Here. Adventure points can be used to progress your campaign. They can be used for things such as locating hidden locations, gaining extra money, although I think that would probably be a waste of adventure points, upgrading local settlements, which could be quite useful, reducing the threat level, which is very, very useful, and promoting followers to heroes. And there are other ways that you can use these adventure milestones, but it is kind of a way for you to, like I say, advance the campaign, get to a stage where you're actually making a difference rather than just going and fighting battles. So you can, like I say, you can actually reduce threat levels, locate hidden locations. Adventure points are going to be extremely, extremely useful, but they're a bastard to use. Basically, when you want to attempt, these are called adventure milestones, these things that you can do. You spend 1 to 6 adventure points from your pool. You roll a d6. If the roll is equal to or below the number of adventure points you spent, it's achieved. Otherwise, it fails and you lose the freaking points. So if you spend 5 adventure points and then you roll a 6, you get nothing and you lose all 5 adventure points. Oh man, that's risky. That's bloody risky. But this is how you kind of further the campaign. So that, getting 1 just by visiting a town, is going to be extremely useful. Okay, so we have 1 hamlet, 1 village, 1 town. I will come up with names later, either through that Perilous Shores website or through another random name generator, because I suck at naming things. Right, so that's that done. We're going to create the map. Now again, I'm going to do that on the software. Let's just bring over an example. So the way that these maps are going to work is that you're going to divide them into map areas. If you use something like a hex grid, you can basically make hexes into map areas. And when you're locating areas of interest or locations, like delves, villages, settlements, hideouts or camps, they will be located in one of these map areas. You don't have to do it so that 1 hex is 1 area. You can actually mark or maybe create a larger area of more hexes if you want to. If you want the map areas to be bigger, nothing's stopping you. Doesn't have to be a hex grid. You can do it. I don't have a blank one without a grid. Okay, imagine this doesn't have a hex grid. You could basically just draw areas, like for example, this range of mountains here. You could make that range of mountains 1 map area. This area of dead forest, that could be 1 area. This area of plains, that could be 1 area. This forest here, or this woods here could be 1 area. So you can actually do it that way. Or, like I say, you can do it in terms of hexes. Now, you will be moving around the map from 1 location to another location, but you'll also be moving possibly to map areas to find hidden locations and things. Now, when you do that, you have to travel. And when you travel, you have to roll to see whether anything happens on your travel. And when you're moving from 1 map area or 1 location to another, you make 1 roll for your travel. That's it. Doesn't matter how far it is, how many areas you have to move through, or how many hexes you move through. You're only making 1 roll for that travel. So let's say, for example, on this map, let's say that I'm starting in this area here, number 4, which is, God, I can't read it, Sifinga village. I can't read it because of the background. So let's say we're starting, when you start the campaign, you're not actually in a location. You start, for example, in any basic area here in the wilderness, and you have to travel to a location. So maybe I start here, I travel here in terms of my first turn, I roll to see if anything happens on my travel, and then I go to here. Just 1 travel roll. Campaign turn 2, maybe I want to go from here and I want to explore this map area here, where maybe there's a delve. To travel, I go from here to here, I make 1 traveling roll to see what happens, and then I am there and I can actually investigate anything in that area. And these areas could have more than 1 location. For example, here, there could be a settlement as well. There could be a hideout, and there could be a delve in that 1 area. So again, what I'm planning on doing is In terms of the hexes, I mean, I could fill up the hexes with loads of different icons, but it may just be better for me to put a number on the hex or the area, and then over here actually write down the different things in that area, just to make it clearer. Everywhere on the map that does not have a location or where something is, it's known as wilderness. And again, you'll be told when things can be found in the wilderness. Hidden locations, you've got to try and find them somehow. Unexplored are things that you know about, but you don't know what they are. So yeah, I mean, I'll create the map and name everything. And we'll see. Okay, so what does it say here? I've got to mark each settlement. Okay, I'll do that later. Fill in 4 to 5 place names, such as rivers, forests, mountain passes, and swamps. Again, this is something else which I find pretty good with Perilous Shores. When they create this map, again, it highlights these random locations of interest. But if you go over, for example, these mountains here, and you right-click, it's actually generated a name for this mountain range. It's not visible when you just look at it, but if you right-click on this area, it actually has generated a name for this area, for this forest, for this lake. So again, that can be something which can be quite useful and added on afterwards. Right, what do we got? We've got 4 to 5 place names. Okay, I can do that, not a problem. Map areas, again, I'm probably just going to use hex grid, and each hex is a map area. Unexplored areas are basically not unexplored locations, but areas that don't have anything in them is known as the wilderness. There will be times when you are told, put this in the wilderness. Like for example, let's say, where's the big map? Here's the big map. Let's say that I'm traveling from location 2 to location 8, okay? So it doesn't matter how many areas I'm moving through, but let's say I move from here to here, I make the traveling roll, and on the traveling roll it says that I encounter something. Maybe I find an ancient temple, and it says, you know, place the ruins of the temple in a wilderness area. Well, what I would do is I would then put it somewhere along this route in one of these wilderness areas, these areas that don't have anything. So I would put it, maybe I would put the temple maybe in this hex here. So this would now be another location. I don't think it would be considered as a wilderness location anymore. It would be a location which has something in it. So now it would need to have a number. And again, when I'm doing it like this, it would then have to have an entry on my little notes. Locations, hidden, yes, unexplored, okay, marking, moving, okay. Right, determine threats. Now I did a bit of thinking on this. Here we go. There are, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, there are 2 types of threat affecting your region. And the way that you are supposed to win the campaign is to basically eliminate all of those threats. And you're going to be looking at 3. Okay, 3 different threats. 2 are going to be foes within. So these are threats that are already in your area and causing trouble, and there are 4 given. You've got the ruin within, which are bandits and brigands. You have the whispers from beyond, which are undead and cultists. You've got the gnawing horde, which are animal people, but I'm thinking, you know, Skaven or rat men, gnolls, you know, things like that. Kobolds, maybe. And you have the Ice Heart Court, which is tree folk and fae, maybe like an elf kingdom. So these are the foes within, and we have to take 2 of these. Now you can select 2 based on what you want to fight or what figures you have, or as you can see here, you can roll randomly. Now I have given this a lot of thought and I've been looking at my figures as well, and the gnawing horde, I don't have enough figures. I do have Skaven, I do have goblins, I think I even have some gnolls somewhere, but I don't have enough to, you know, to kind of bring to the table, because the gnawing horde tends to have a lot of enemies. So that one's kind of out. The Ice Heart Court. Initially, I was thinking of using the Daikini from Rackham, because again, if you've watched my first video, you would have remembered that I said that I was trying to use as much Rackham models as I can, the old confrontation models. I do have Daikini, but again, I'm not sure if I have enough figures for what I need, and to get hold of Rackham figures now is it's crazy. So what I was thinking that is, I also actually have a bunch of Raging Heroes from one of their Kickstarters, which could fit. I mean, they're more sort of dark elf than sort of wood elf, but they could work. But in the end, I have decided to go with the Ruin Within and the Whispers from Beyond. Now, the Whispers from Beyond, I am going to be using my Rackham Mid-Nor dwarves. They're kind of like evil undead dwarves. So I'm going to be using my figures for Mid-Nor, my Rackham Mid-Nor, for these guys. And for the Ruin Within, I'm actually going to be using some 3D printed models from Bestiarum, the man-eaters. They fit perfect. Well, to be honest, they fit better for one of the Foes Without, the Curse of War, but I will use them for the Ruin Within. So we have to select two of those. So I'm going to select the Ruin Within and the Whispers from Beyond. Now, your third threat needs to be a Foe Without. These are external threats that are threatening your region. We have Duskling Warbands, we have the Oldest Kin, the Curse of War, and the Faceless Kingdom. So the Duskling Warbands are fierce, like barbarian warriors. The Oldest Kin are kind of like lizard folk or saurians. The Curse of War are like ghouls and war cultists. This would be a perfect match for a lot of my Bestiarum models. The Faceless Kingdom, disciplined military forces. This would be good with my Rackham Griffin figures. So again, I have figures for all of these. I wish I could pick two of these instead of two of the Foes Within, to be honest. For the Duskling Warbands, I could use my Rackham Droons. For the Oldest Kin, I could use my one-page rules Saurians or Lizardmen. The Curse of War, again, I could use my Bestiarum Man-Eaters, and for the Faceless Kingdom, my Rackham Griffins. But I am going to go with the Duskling Warbands, the Barbarians, which will be using my Droon figures. I think I have enough of those. So those are going to be my three threats. Right, we now have to establish threat levels. So we have to select one as the primary enemy, as the main threat, and we have to give them a threat level of 6. Now, what does that mean? Well, every time you are able to reduce the threat level, it obviously goes down by 1. I think, if I remember correctly from my reading, I think there are some random events and things that can actually raise threat levels as well. I think if the threat gets to 10, I think you lose. Again, don't quote me. I have to double check on that and maybe add a note in the editing. But your goal is to try and get the threat levels down to 0. That means you've cleared the area. The area is safe. All hail. What did I name my? What did I name my warband? The Thorns of Bystone. All hail the Thorns of Bystone. That's the okay. So I need to give one of them a threat level of 6, and the other two have a threat level of 5. So what I'm thinking is maybe the Mid-Nor gets 6, because in terms of threat, in terms of evil, in terms of, you know, all that sort of stuff, that's the worst. So I'm thinking, I'll put here threat level, I'm going to give the Ruin Within, I think 5. I think I'm going to give Mid-Nor 6, and the Dusklings I'm going to give 5 as well. Right, so we want to try and reduce those to 0, if possible. What else is there? Okay, place additional points of interest. Right, so as well as our 3 settlements, we also have a delve. However, When I was rolling up the warband in the previous video, my avatar, I think for his history, he got a map or something that allows me to add another delve. So we are going to be putting 2 delves on the map. Now delves are like dungeons, and when you investigate a delve or a dungeon, you're basically going to do it level by level. So you'll enter a dungeon which has various occupants and enemies inside, and if you win the battle, you clear that level of the dungeon, you have to roll. I think if you roll equal to or less the number of levels found, that's the end of the dungeon. But I think if you roll higher, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I'll put it up here if I'm wrong. But if you roll over the number, you basically there's like a staircase leading down to another level that you can do another battle in. I think that's how it works. So we're going to have 2 delves. We're going to add, so we get an unexplored location. We have to search it out, and then we roll to see exactly what it is. It could be another delve, it could be another dungeon, it could be a monster lair, it could be a ruined temple, it could be a camp or anything, you know. There's a lot of things that it could be, but we won't know until we actually search it out. What else? Finally, for each of the 3 threats, place a camp. So +3 camps, 1 per threat. So these are, I think these are known locations, but again, you see here, place them anywhere you like in the wilderness. So the camps will be placed anywhere that is not currently a location where something is. So I could, for example, like here, the ruins within, which are kind of like brigands and bandits, I think they would be fairly close to settlements. So we've got a couple of settlements here. So maybe for the ruin within, I would put their camp maybe here, or maybe in the mountains in this map area here. So now this would be a location. It wouldn't be wilderness anymore. It'd be a location. That would be an enemy camp. The Whispers from Beyond. I don't think they would be so close to a settlement. So maybe they would be somewhere a little bit less accessible. So maybe over here, or maybe down here. The Dusklings. Okay, so the Dusklings, the camp I think would be nearer to the map edge, because again, they're an outside influence. So again, maybe they're coming in from this area, so maybe the camp is around here, or maybe they're coming from the north, so maybe their camp would be up here. But I've got to put 3 camps on the map when I do the map. Again, just a reminder, this is not the map I'm going to be using. This is just an example I'm using to show you guys. Right. Okay, so these are all the places that I know about. Also, hideouts. Each threat also has a hideout somewhere in the region. These are hidden. So we've got +3 hideouts, which are hidden. So again, we've got to try and discover where they are. One way is by using those adventure points. So we've got to discover them. As such, do not place them on the map. So for the for the camps, I would place them on the map. They are known locations. So I would link them on here. But the hideouts, I would just put down the bottom here that there are 3 hideouts that are hidden that I need to find, but there will be nothing on here yet. Once I find them, yes, I can then put them down where I find them. Sweet, sweet, sweet. So 3 hideouts hidden. Again, we've got 1 per threat. Okay. And then step 8, I think this is the last step. Yep. Select a start point. Select a spot on the edge of the map. This is where you start, and you will need to make a travel roll to reach a location to begin adventuring. So like I said earlier, once I've done the map, I need to pick a map area on the edge. In this case, it would be a hex. And then I have to travel somewhere. I have to travel to a location. Now, I could go straight to an adventure location. Something that I know exists. Maybe an enemy camp. Maybe as soon as I get on the map, I attack an enemy camp, for example. Or you could probably do the more sensible thing and go to a settlement. So again, your first campaign turn will basically be traveling to that location. And that, my friends, is what we are going to do in the next video. Now, I am going to create this map. Like I say, I'm going to use the Perilous Shores as the basis. I'm then going to transfer the map onto PowerPoint and modify, customize, add all these details onto the map. I'm going to start painting because now I've confirmed exactly who my enemies are. I can start painting up figures for these guys. Another thing is that when you are selecting your enemies, you've got two options. You can roll randomly on the table, or you can go through them sequentially, which basically sort of increases the challenge. If you roll randomly, you could end up with the most powerful, the most dangerous, the most difficult enemies right from the start. So we'll discuss that when we do the preparation for the next video. Here we have the original map from the Perilous Shores website, and this is the one that just I think I had to do 2 or 3 before I got something suitable. I had a couple of islands first, but this was the first one that came up that was suitable. It has 2 dangerous areas, locations 1 and 5. It has 3 settlements, but I will be modifying this to suit my needs. So here I've basically removed all the icons and locations. You can do this on the website, right click, and it will give you a number of options that you can do to get rid of all the bits and pieces that you don't want. You can also, if you want to, add hex numbers, maybe as a way of locating or identifying specific hexes or map areas. I will keep a copy to hand. But this is what I finally came up with. So as you can see, I have transferred the basic empty map onto PowerPoint, positioned it to the left. I have added the compass points and also the name of the region, which was created with the Perilous Shores map. It came with the region name. It also came with a legend of location names like the town, the village, the hamlets. I've actually used the names on the legend. I've just used them for different location positions. So as you can see on the map here, I have put down my 3 settlements. These are locations 1, 2, and 3. Like I say, I've used the same names as from the Perilous Shores map. So we've got the Amberhorn town, which is the market town to the west. To the south, we have the Copresby village, and also location 6, which is unexplored. And I've also put on a different map here the area names. Again, on Perilous Shores, it's not immediately obvious, but if you click on the sort of geographical areas, it has also generated random names. So I've used them. I've just put them in a different format on this map. And this is what we are going to be using for campaign turn 1, with whatever modifications we need to be changed on the PowerPoint later. So that is the map that I'll be using. It has been designed, it has been edited, it has been printed into my folder, and it's there for you guys to have a look at and see where I can't remember, what's the name of my group? The Thorns of Bystone. Actually, why am I still using the worksheet? I've actually got it written down on the bloody thing here. The Thorns of Bystone. Yeah, so that's where they're going to be adventuring. Join me in the next video as we start campaign turn 1, as we enter the map and travel to the first location. And from there, we will see if we have to then move to the next campaign turn. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for your time and attention. Again, I hope the video hasn't been too long. I tend to talk too much. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Cheers.